Here's how to write terrible dialogue in 10 simple steps. 1. Study the greats. Absorb the masterfully flat and corny dialogue of the Star Wars prequels, straight-to-TV movies, soap operas, and poorly written books. Never expose yourself to Sorkin or Shakespeare or Steinbeck. Protect yourself from the horrors of well-written dialogue, lest you pick up a thing or two from it. Let the lazy writing wash over you. Learn from it. Imitate it. You may begin to notice the techniques these writers employ to make their dialogue so gloriously cringeworthy, such as having the characters state their feelings and tell each other things they already know for the audience's sake. By the end of this video, you will have learned several of these tactics, giving you a helpful head start. Someday, if you work hard enough, your writing too may be studied as a shining example of terrible dialogue. 2. Avoid talking to people. You don't want to know how real people talk. If you can't carry on a fluid conversation, you'll be at far less risk of writing one. This fits in well with the ideal lifestyle of a writer, since you should be spending as much time as possible in isolation and darkness. Not talking to anyone will also help limit your understanding of the world, and the varied beliefs and speech patterns of the people in it. Your characters should all sound like you. By venturing into the outside world, you risk hearing a turn of phrase or exchange that could inspire you. The only voices you hear should be the ones you hear in your own head. 3. Use clichés. There are so many wonderfully overused phrases to choose from. Why choose at all? Pack every one into your dialogue and use them over and over again to really drive the point home that your characters have never had an original thought in their lives, and neither have you. If you ever find yourself thinking hard over what a character should say, you're doing it wrong. If you want to take this to the next level, which of course you do, don't write a single original line of dialogue. Plagiarize everything. Or if that sounds like too much work, just make sure every sentence your characters speak sounds like it could have been plagiarized. Every line should make your reader think, I've definitely heard that before.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
Time to die.
So, we meet again.
We're not so different, you and I. Not so fast.
He's out cold. Piece of cake.
We've got company. Are you thinking what I'm thinking?
4. Don't write characters, write mouthpieces. Your characters should be as thin and flat as the paper they're written on. Here's a simple rule of thumb to remember. Write caricatures, not characters. There should never be any tension or conflict in your dialogue. The good guys should always be right and agree with each other, and the bad guys should always be cartoonishly wrong. Regularly stop the story to let your protagonist indulge in a self-righteous monologue so they can preach the moral of the story to the villain, or just to the readers, who of course wouldn't be able to figure it out otherwise. Your readers should be able to see you pulling the strings. They should see the characters as puppets rather than people. The end result is that they'll be utterly uninvested and detached from the story, which is exactly what you want.
I think we should stop bad guys from blowing up the world.
I agree.
Cool.
Nice.
Great.
Cool.
Great.
Nice.
Cool.
Great.
I like being a good person.
It's good to be good. I'm Bob McEvil, and I want you to destroy the world. Join me.
I don't know. You sound like you might be evil.
Well, I also like kicking dogs and stealing candy from babies, if that helps.
5. Be as realistic as possible, in only the worst ways. You know how a lot of real-life conversation is dull and meandering? Your job as a writer is to capture that on the page, so your readers are subjected to excruciating small talk even in the escape of fiction. They should know they're never safe from bland discourse about the weather. End scenes as late as possible. Stretch out dialogue to the fullest extent. Like all the worst real-world conversations, your dialogue scenes should feel interminable and awkward. There should be a palpable sense of time being wasted in every exchange between characters. Filler words are a must-have in dialogue. Your characters should use so many likes, ums, and uhs that they all sound like insecure teenagers.
Hi.
Hi.
So, what's up? Nothing?
Oh, nice.
Like actually nothing?
Like actually nothing.
Right.
I heard it was, supposed to rain or something. Oh, really?
No, actually.
Oh.
So are we still supposed to defuse that bomb, or
6. Pack in as much jargon as possible. Confuse your reader, and yourself, to the greatest extent language permits. Make your dialogue flowery and verbose to the point of incomprehensibility. If something can be said in 2 words, Your characters should say it in 200. Over-explain every element of your world, down to the most irrelevant detail, in page after page of lifeless monologue. Use fancy-sounding words in your dialogue without understanding what they mean. Interweave perspicacious parataxis with recondite apotheosis. In fact, you can jettison the bounds of language and make up nonsense words that do nothing to further the plot or world building. Construct meaningless jargon solely to clutter the page. Your characters shouldn't even sound human.
Sir, the hyperplastin is aborming the calatonid blazaton. Dear Glanitorth, what does it mean?
I have no idea. I don't think the writer does either. 7. Exposition, exposition, exposition. Exposition is when you tell the reader something they need to know about the plot or characters. Assume your readers aren't intelligent, so you need to repeat things a lot. Remember, exposition is when you tell the reader something they need to know about the plot or characters. Your characters should constantly be stating facts to each other, like walking Wikipedia pages that won't shut up. Make them tell each other things they already know in a transparent attempt to convey information to the reader alone. They'll appreciate having it delivered to them repeatedly in such a ham-fisted manner. Nothing should be conveyed non-verbally in your story. Pack your pages with monologues about what your characters are feeling, thinking, doing, what they've done, what they plan to do, what they had for lunch, what they had for breakfast, what they're thinking about having for dinner, though they're not sure because those leftovers may have gone bad like a week ago, anything to fill the silence. You don't want to give your characters, or your readers, a chance to breathe. Your characters' backstories should be explained in dialogue. Nothing should be left to the reader's imagination. After all, it's best to assume they don't have one. A bonus tip. Repeat characters' names in dialogue all the time. Your readers might forget mid-sentence who's being spoken to, so always have your characters refer to each other by their names. Their full names, ideally. You could even throw in their role in the story.
I'm so glad to see you, Bob, my best friend. How's work at the chemical factory going, Bob, old friend? Christopher the Christensen III. I'm so glad to see you too, my friend who I met when I was 13 and when you were also 13. That's right, my best friend from the age of 13 named Bob.
8. Make all your characters sound the same. Regardless of who your characters are, where they're from, what their history is, they should all sound identical. Avoid doing any research into vocabulary specific to a character's profession, time period, or place of origin. All your characters, from a medieval king to a futuristic robot, should sound just like you. If multiple characters are speaking, the reader should have no idea who's who. None of your characters should have unique verbal tics or favorite phrases. You should be able to swap lines of dialogue between characters without anyone noticing. All your dialogue should melt together into an unvaried, flavorless, and rather repugnant soup. 9. Abuse dialogue tags. Said is a beautifully simple word, which is why you should never use it. But since all your characters will sound the same, you need dialogue tags for every line they speak. Your task is to think up the most ludicrous and needlessly circuitous ways of attributing dialogue. Don't say your protagonist asked a question, say they ponderously petitioned. Don't write she said, but she orated. And to make it clear what your characters are feeling, tack on a mess of adverbs, analogies, and elaborate description. Your protagonist didn't just whisper, he susurrated faintly and quietly with a hint of deep sorrow, like a melancholic wind whistling through the twisting caverns of a long-abandoned mid to late 18th century coal mine haunted by the ghosts of child laborers. Allow me to provide another excellent example. Where is the weapon? Jack barked vociferously through gritted teeth with barely suppressed rage burning like a metaphorical fire of emotional feelings. Why, you mean the weapon to destroy the world I have been designing in secret for the past 10 years, 5 months, and 17 days? Vocalized Bob with his mouth. Yes, Jack asseverated acrimoniously. 10. Avoid subtext. Your characters should always say exactly what they mean. No dialogue should serve more than one purpose. In fact, if you can, make your dialogue serve no purpose at all. Melodrama is the opposite of subtext. It's when more emotion and higher stakes are presented explicitly than are justified by the story and characters. That's the spot you want your dialogue to land in. At least when it's not mind-numbingly dull. Your characters should scream their feelings out loud. In emotional scenes, their dialogue should read like a bored psychiatrist's report. To really make your reader feel the melodrama in their bones, crank every dial up to 11 and then some. Use exclamation points. The more the better. Use all caps. Your dialogue should feel as vapid, overwrought, and brainless as an angry Twitter thread. Do nothing in your story to earn these emotional outbursts. They should feel perfunctory, redundant, and over the top. Subtext takes thought and consideration, and communicates information in interesting and engaging ways. It's to be avoided at all costs. If your characters aren't constantly telling the reader what they're thinking and feeling, how is anyone supposed to follow the story? Deliver information to your reader with the subtlety of an 18-wheeler driving through their front door.
I am torn apart with agony. My every fiber aches with anguish.
I want revenge. Your thirst for revenge could corrupt you. It could turn you into the very person you hate most. Your father, Bob.
What? I didn't know he was my father.
This new information makes me feel like really mad.
If you found this video helpful, which I know you did, give it a like. While you're at it, subscribe for more writing videos. Writing bad dialogue is only part of crafting a terrible book. To continue your journey, watch this next.